Now there is something really critical in Jewish life, and that seems to be a mess out there in the world, and this is the power of speech. The way speech is used. I mean, we know the noise and the gossip and the insanity of what people are saying in the world, and we know that, right? And we have to compare and contrast the insanity of the world out there and how speech is used with the precious cargo that speech is to us as Jews. Okay? It is literally one of the most profound, which I hope to demonstrate to you, one of the most profound arenas of life, of creation, of the definition of who you are, and something which you see if you look with just a glance across Jewish literature and Jewish sensitivities, you see speech is something which is of primary importance to us as Jews. Everyone probably knows the concept of lashon hara, evil speech. Okay, this is a huge component, and we're going to understand what the power of speech is, hopefully bring you back to the source, and see maybe how we can change our lives by how we speak. Now, last week we started the Torah, and it said the story of creation, when Adam, man, was created. Okay, now you should know, by the way, very important, the word Adam does not mean male, like a guy. The word Adam is a generic form for human creation. In fact, our sages are very keen to point out that this first creation, Adam, was both male and female. You can see it in two places in the book, in the first Torah portion, where it says it clearly, Zachar and the Keva, Torah Otam, he created them both in one entity, and they were later split. The word for rib does not mean rib, according to our commentators. It means a side. This one entity was siphoned off and split into two entities. But this thing, Adam, is the generic thing called human being. And it was put to sleep. And then it says in the creation of this clay that rose from the earth, it says, Yipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. And God breathed into the nostrils, the soul of life, and it became a living being. Okay, now no verse is there for no reason. Every verse is crystallized divinity and truth and essence in the words of the verse. Okay, so no word is extra, and it became a living being. And the most local to the page in any legitimate edition of the Torah as it's printed today will come with a certain translation, which is still in Aramaic, but it says very clearly, it determines the whole culture of how we read these verses. When it translates the words became a living being after it was breathed into the nostrils, the soul of life, the words for living being are translated as ruach mamalala, which means the power of speech. What is the essence of human being? Creation versus everything else we create, from flowers to orangutans. What is the distinguishing factor that shows our divinity, that gives us this privileged position of being the whole purpose of creation, according to Jewish philosophy? What's the distinguishing factor? What is the most primal characteristic of our identity as a human being, as an image of God? It's the power of speech, the ability to speak. So we have to understand what that means. Okay? The unique essence of the human being will be reflected in the power of speech. One's success as a spiritual being, or one's, God forbid, demise as a spiritual being, will be determined by the way in which we use this power of speech, which is why now we take it so seriously. Just to give you some ideas, right, where our sages teach us a few things. The number one determinant of our reward and our place in the world to come, in that place of reward, will be determined by this power of speech, how we use this faculty of speech. The temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, the second temple, which led to the exile that we're in today. We're in 2,000 years of a diaspora, which is a very nice, soft word, but exile is better. Diaspora sounds a little nicer, But we're in exile, okay, slowly coming back to the land of Israel. We were kicked out and burned and pillaged, and our temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago. And the sages tell us the reason why it was destroyed because of speech, because we didn't speak to each other the right way. Our sages tell us that it's tantamount to, if not worse than, the three cardinal sins: murder, rape, idol worship. The temple wasn't destroyed for the sins that people were practicing and doing. It was destroyed for this sin of lashon hara, of speech, of how we spoke to each other. Really, Jerusalem was ransacked and hundreds of thousands, a million people killed and dispersed for 2,000 years because of this. Very interesting story. A friend of mine who did not grow up religious, but became religious, and he and his brothers live in Israel, and they got a lot of kids, and the kids got a lot of strings hanging out their pants, and payas, and yarmulkes in their head, and speak Hebrew, and they went on a family trip with like the grandparents, and they're driving through Montana, and just go out west. But they got a big van, and all the families in the van, and these kids, and they got to stop at a rest stop in the middle of nowhere. And they get out, and all these kids run out, and they're running through the fields, and they're little Jerusalem, Haredi, ultra-Orthodox religious kids. You know how they dress and they look like, right? And so they're sitting there, whatever, stretching their legs and running around. The kids are going crazy, and they're using the restroom. And some guy comes up to my friend and says, "Excuse me, got a question for you. You a Jew?" So my friend says, "Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I am." He says, "Well, I never met a Jew." And my friend says, "Well, here I am. I'm glad I could be of service. How can I help?" He goes, this guy says, true story. Guy says, "Is it true that the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed 2,000 years ago because you didn't know how to speak Nazi to each other?" I was like, "Yes, as a matter of fact, it is." He says, "Is it true that Messiah is only going to come when you guys fix it and get it right?" My friend says, "Yeah." He says, "What the hell is taking you so long?" True story. Right? True story. There's another crazy statement from our sages. I'm not going to answer this question, but I want you to think about it. This transgression of Lashon Hara, evil speech, or the word evil is like devils and Halloween, but evil is like the wrong, the total misuse of this thing. It says like this: if a person does not speak Lashon Hara, if they only use their speech the right way, we would never be punished for any of our transgressions. None. As soon as a person speaks Lashon Hara, then not only we punished for that, then we're punished for everything we did wrong. Meaning this thing somehow has the power of being able to completely nullify the punishment for any transgression, anything we do wrong our entire life. It's a very, very powerful thing. And yet we live in a world where it's how speech is used and misused is so prevalent and it's so crazy. And our iPhones and technology are making the noise of hateful, vitriol, and evil speech, as we call it, just a part of our reality. You can't walk the streets anywhere without hearing it. You can't turn on a TV. You can't go anywhere without gossip and vitriol and animosity and speech and these things. If there were arrows, we'd be bleeding to death everywhere. From a Jewish perspective, the way that people are dealing with climate change today, and you can't even, I'm all behind the times. I went to a coffee shop and I wanted, bottled water. I didn't mean it. What's a new fad? Boxed water. I forgot about the boxed water. Okay? The way we're nuts about climate change, I'm telling you, the way Jews forever think about speech is the way the world's thinking about climate change. Every word you say is bringing rot. If you say it the wrong way, it's bringing cancer and rot into the world. It's destroying the ozone layer. It's destroying the very fabric of spiritual harmony in the world. That's how we relate to speech. I imagine if we could correlate a diet to climate change. If I want a diet, but I eat that chocolate cake, then the Arctic is going to melt and the polar bears are going to die. It would help us not eat the chocolate cake. It would help us. That would help us, right? But we don't have that consequence. But as Jews, we have to understand that we really look at the essence of who we are and the essence of the success and health of the spiritual world. It comes down to how we speak. Okay? That's going to motivate us. We have to know what the consequences are to be motivated to take it seriously. But I'm going to give you more than that at the end, which is really an appreciation of how you can actually change your own life and all the life of people around you to get there. Okay? I'll give you just an insight into two important points to illustrate this. Lashon hara, evil speech, is considered one of the worst sins, if not the worst sin. Now, evil speech, Lashon hara, is not lying. Lying is not the problem. I mean, it's a problem. Okay? It's bad to lie. And it's bad to say nonsense also. But that's not what Lashon hara is. Lashon hara, evil speech, is actually speech that is true. You say something true about somebody else. Now, in today's day and age, if it's true, you're allowed to say it, even if it kills the person you're saying it about. Right? But the true definition of this powerful speech that we're talking about, Lashon hara, is not a lie. A lie is not even considered speech, really. It's not even real. Okay? It's not real. It's a lie. And nonsense is nonsense. You're not allowed to do those things either, but that's not the powerful nuclear destructive force we're discussing. or the powerful, creative, beautiful force that we're discussing. That's when you say something that's true, you reveal a truth, but you reveal it for evil, nefarious ends. It's deep there, it's true. It's there to be revealed, but you're revealing it for the wrong reason. That's what destroys the world. That's Lashon Hara. Most people don't know that. They think Lashon Hara is lying. It's not. That's lying. Lashon Hara is you're saying something that's true. You're saying this person is horrible, this person's fat, this person's ugly, this person's a jerk, this person cheated. You're saying something about a person that could be very true. When it's true, that's when the evil begins. Why are we saying it? We have to start to appreciate the destruction that comes from this power of speech. Questions at the end. Save it though, okay? Another idea is cursing. You ever wonder, right? We were walking today, Jack and I were walking through the streets of New York, and there's a homeless guy on the street. Anything coming out of this person's mouth, a derelict, sadly, coming out of his mouth are curses, which are all feces and fornication. Basically, are the end result of most curses out there. But you should know the Yiddish language is known to have more curses than any other language. But it's not feces and fornication, it's really clever curses. Okay, clever ones. Okay? But when people are cursing out there, it's like you're saying, what do you say? And then we're walking, but it's not just the homeless guy on the street. It's people walking in, this effing shit, what does it say? We do it. We do it all the time. It's a commonplace to curse. In fact, I will tell you, as a rabbi, and I've been a rabbi for a long time, your generation feels very comfortable cursing in front of a rabbi. 10 years ago, no student of mine would have cursed in front of me. Ever! But it's changed. Okay? Cursing, it's a really amazing study. At Keele University in Staffordshire, UK, okay? This is a famous experiment. If you put your hands into ice buckets, have you heard this? Buckets of ice water, is to keep your hands in freezing cold ice water. So they did a test of people who had to remain silent, people who could scream or make up their own curse words, and people who could curse. People who could curse could keep their hands there 50% longer than anybody else. What are you doing when you say poop? But you don't say poop, you say S word. Or you say that, if you don't say fornication or intercourse, you say something else, right? What's going on? Why can you get 50% longer? You can suffer pain. Not only that, this is even scarier. Okay? They did the same test with people who watched nice things or people who watched violent acts. People who watch murder and violence and things like that can keep their hands in there much longer after they watch violence on TV. Cursing and violence is the same thing. There's some incredibly powerful destructive force. You can feel it sometimes, right? You step your toe. If you really say, I'm not going to curse, there's something there. There's a power in the speech. You can actually change your pain threshold. It's that much of a release. It alters the body, the physiology of your whole system. That's 50% more than anything else. It's a crazy idea. Why? Because the truth is, nowadays people can't buy a can of Coke without it being I want to effing be. You can't without pooping and fornicating. You literally walk around the hood. Isn't it cute? The old rabbit saying pooping and fornicating. I have a bet with somebody how many times I can say it on that Facebook Live. Pooping and fornicating. Right? But people, you can't walk down the street without everyone pooping and fornicating all day long. You can't have a conversation. It's crazy. How can this be? What's this speech, right? We gotta take it more seriously. So let's go. Any good so far? Okay? This is serious stuff. Okay? Let's go back a little bit. Now, let's get to the deep, mystical DNA structure of what speech is. And this will blow you away. Okay? So pay attention. This will blow you away. Where does speech fit into the whole thing? The number 5 is a very important theme. You're going to hear me say it a couple of times right now. Okay, 5. But there are 5 structures to how things come into existence. There's will, ratzon, which means you have a will for something. And then there's machshava, which is when you have a thought of something, when you get the answer, you've been thinking about what the answer is, and it pops into your head, and it's complete. There's a thought where the whole thing is complete. And there's another type of thought called hirur, which is when you deconstruct, like a poke bowl of ideas, where you deconstruct the sushi, right, and you start thinking about this part and that part, and the raw materials and all the things you need. Take a table. There's a need for a table, a will for a table. And there's the concept of table, which is a complete table. And then in your mind there's all the pieces I need to make a table and the carpentry that goes along with it, right? That's the first 3 stages, ratzon, machshava, hirur. And then there's something called dibur, speech, where it comes into the world. And then the 5th stage is called maisa, where it actually gets created. But this thing, speech, is right in there. The speech comes with the mouth, okay? The sages teach us there are 3 things the mouth does. Eats, speaks and kisses, what's the common denominator? Why did God, if you're God, you're creating this human form, you're creating this form, right? Why would you create the same spot for eating, speaking, and kissing, right? Now, if you went someplace, if you had to sort of invent how two people would show a great sign of connection, probably if you know anything about germs and you know, the common cold, you would not assume that we just should lick each other's lips, right? It's a very bizarre thing. We were used to it, that's why we accept it, right? But there's something going on there. In all these three areas, these are all areas of connection, where connection between the spiritual world and the physical world take place. Okay? How does it work with eating? The only reason you eat is to take the soul and the body, which are two opposite ends of the spectrum, and be able to fuse them together. The food, which is why kosher food is so important, because it governs the spiritual cholesterol, it governs the connection between body and soul. Because you have a soul which doesn't want to be down here, it's up there, and a body which is just an orangutan and a wildebeest down here, and you fuse these two things together in Adam, in a human being, and the thing which keeps those two things, and when we don't eat, they go away, right? But that keeps it together, the connection between spiritual and physical. Kissing, a prostitute doesn't kiss, no matter how much money you got. And I'm not talking about like, what's a pretty woman, it doesn't work that way, okay? Not that I know anything, it's the same, but I do my research. But kissing is a connection between two people, and speaking is not only connection between people, it's a connection between the higher world and the lower world. It is a revelation where things that are deep and true come into the world through speech. It will be true for us as people, what is in our minds, in our kishkis, in our hearts, in our thoughts, in our inner recesses, when it becomes real, communicable, packaged, brought into the world, will be through speech. When it comes to our ability, you're living in my voice right now, you're living in my speech right now, the connection being made in that way. There are ideas coming into fruition that now are being transferred to your accounts, so to speak. And of course, speech is going to be the methodology by which all spiritual essence is being able to be concretized and brought into the world. Okay? And where do we see that more than any other place? Creation. Because how did God create the world? God spoke, and the world was created. Now, that doesn't mean maybe what you think it means, that God said, make light, make the earth, and a bunch of people went around minions and did it, right? This is the coolest thing. In Hebrew, and this is a plug, we have an Oplan starting, you have to know Hebrew, and you have to know it well. But it is the language of your soul, it is the language of your people. I grew up barely being able to read Hebrew and thinking that you get a reward, a sticker in Hebrew school, for being able to read a language that you don't understand. That's not a very Jewish thing. To read a language and pride yourself on being able to sound out the words but not understand anything. How did it come to that? Right? This is a language you need to understand. It's your language. It's the language of the soul. Hebrew. Okay? In the Hebrew language, the word for speech, davar, daber, dibur, is the same word for thing. Everything in the world, davar, is the same word for speech. When God created it, He didn't say in order and other people went and made it. What He said was the thing. Everything in the world in creation is the essence of creation. That God created the world, and the methodology, the mechanism, the convention of that was speech. That God spoke and the thing existed. Because every davar thing is a dibur, is a speech. Because speech is the connection between the will and the spiritual world being brought into the physical world, which is what creation was. And that's reflected in Hebrew. It's reflected in our language. That everything gets concretized and brought into the world, revealed from the deep spiritual source into the world of the soul, into the world of the physical. That convention, the way in which that comes into the world is through speech. There are also 5 parts of speech. Okay? We have the throat, and then we have the palate, and the tongue, and the teeth, and the lips, and how sounds are formed come through that. What happens is a breath that comes in, and it goes through this whole passageway, like a flute and a clarinet, and a trumpet and trombone, and everything combined, through the through the throat, the palate, the tongue, how everything is formed. And by the way, the Hebrew language is very particular about this. The Hebrew grammar reflects it also. How letters and sounds are formed. If you have a sound that comes up, at some point it's a primal sound, and that's in the throat. The first time where the ethereal breath reaches a point of physicality, where it becomes a sound, that's here in the throat, and it gets formed, and it comes out these amazing things called words. Right? And those words become sentences, those sentences become ideas, and those ideas becomes opportunities for us to connect in a real way. Okay? There are 5 levels to the soul also, and the word for breath and the word for soul is the same word. The word for breath is neshima, and the word for soul is neshama. When we speak, we are literally hearing the sound of the soul as it comes through this winged instrument called the body, and it comes in to express itself in the physical world. You're seeing a reflection every time you speak of the way the world was created, of the power of this connection between physical and spiritual. So now you're dealing with nuclear energy. You're dealing with the DNA of creation. You're dealing with the thing which defines a human being from what a human being can be. You're dealing with something by which we will be judged by what we create in the world and the power of speech. And I can't believe I have this expression, sticks and stones will break my bones and words will never hurt me. Sticks and stones are no big deal. You get over it, it'll scar here. Words are the most powerful thing. True words are the most powerful thing. It depends on how you use things. It can kill or it can heal. It can take God right out of the world. And you have a world that we have outside here of utter vitriol and terror. We are terrorized with people's opinions and ideas and words and hate speech. Okay, we're terrorized by it. When a Jew hears the word hate speech, we think a lot of other things. Okay, saying something true about something. We're terrorized by it, murdered by it, day in and day out. If you understand, it's actually really nuclear energy. Speech reveals the soul. Okay, lying is not as powerful, dangerous. Babble is not as dangerous. Speech that is true, misused. That's where we have to measure ourselves. What we say and what we do. In University of Pennsylvania, where I've been teaching for many, many years, there is a faculty there called positive psychology. You've ever heard about positive psychology? It's the opposite of negative psychology. Negative psychology is something wrong with you. And we, as psychologists, are going to try and address that and figure out what's wrong and how to categorize it and how we can address it. Positive psychology is the opposite. What's the science of happiness? Is there a science besides this? Is there the science of depression? What's the science of happiness? And the center of that, in the beginning of the research, that was by a man named Dr. Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania. And that's still happens. You can go take classes and find it online. It was Tal, then whatever his name was, Tal Shahar, the most popular class of Harvard, now the most popular class of Yale. This thing is taking the world by storm. Positive psychology. What's the science of happiness? And the reason why it's called positive psychology is because that has something to do with it also. The first studies that they did that showed them that there was something remarkable over here were taking people who were clinically depressed and giving them exercises of expressing gratitude and expressing positivity about themselves. And within a miraculous amount of time, a third of the people were no longer dependent on medication for antidepressants. All of a sudden, the power of saying something, the power of expressing something good, something which is true and bringing into the world, that experience changed the person completely. Something that medicine was not unable to do at that stage. And that began the study of what's called positive psychology. You know, when we have a lot of laws in Judaism of lashon hara, bad, evil speech, what's evil speech, what you can't say, and lots and lots and lots of laws. And I know it can seem daunting, like all these laws of right? But the truth is, like, I've got 4 teenagers. I think, like, my car insurance is like, wow, I can't believe that that's what the adjuster thinks I need to pay every month to insure 4 teenagers, right? But I have 3 kids with driver's license. Yeah, 3 kids with driver's license. My wife, no. I got 3 kids with driver's license. Well, she's English. It's the wrong side of the road. After 15 years of living here. Sorry. But my kids, so when they pass their driving test, they're still driving around thinking of like the book that they studied and the test that they just took and that stop sign. But of course, you know when you're driving, you don't think about these things. The laws can become second nature to you. Okay, the laws can be some second nature. We need to learn them. We need to develop that sensitivity and sensibility about what we can say, when we can say it, and how to say it. Those laws are very important, but don't get constrained and bogged down with them because those laws are there, like all law in Judaism, for whom the word in Hebrew is not constrained, stop, hold you back. It's actually the word halakha, which means to go, and the olet. The laws are there to let you drive safely so you know to stop at red lights and go through green lights and how to follow the laws of travel so you can get to where you need to go. But we're supposed to know how to speak, and we're supposed to know how to speak well. The way the Torah couches a certain aspect of the mitzvah of speaking, it says, don't be a talebearer. Don't be a rachil. That's what it says, meaning in modern day slang, don't traffic in negativity. Don't traffic in evil speech. Don't be accustomed to that. You have to start to change completely the way we speak. Now I'm telling you as an exercise, right? You know, if you were willing to experiment with this, if you were willing to spend tomorrow and the next day, and this week, going around to people and thinking about how you can say something to them that is clearly good, clearly encouraging, clearly grateful, clearly complimentary. If you literally pay even the slightest attention to this, and you do because you normally don't do it, but if we did this, you're going to see such, not only a change in the people around you. If you see a homeless person, you want to give them shelter. Someone's starving, you want to give them food. I got news for you guys. We all know this. Everybody out there is starving and homeless and hungry for attention, for love, for compassion, for understanding, for identity. We live in a world where in America we have everything at our fingertips and we got nothing. We have the highest depression rate, everything. Like everybody's searching out there. Your whole generation is searching, right? You can feed the hungry. You can give people a sense of dignity, of self-worth, of being appreciated, of being loved. You just got to speak to them the right way. You literally have the ability tomorrow to change everybody in your office's life. They might think you're really weird, so do it subtly. Okay? But you have the ability to change everything around you by how you speak. You have the ability to not only change everything around you, but when you do that, you change yourself. What comes through your body is no longer rot and mold and wormwood. What comes through your body is the soul, is the essence of who you are. It purifies you. You become a different person. Our sages will teach us that we become a different person, which is why we won't get punished for the sins we did. Because you know why? Because the arrest warrant for that guy who did all the sins is for a different person. It's not for me. A person who's able to access the soul, to be in touch with the deepest part of ourselves, to emulate God, to be the essence of what creation is, and bring that out into the world for good, for godliness. That's what we're judged on. That's what's going to change us. It literally will change your life. I promise you. If you look at a picture, because we all want to be fit and healthy, and also you have your poster of a healthy, fit person, you know, whatever it is, and you have a person over there with a smile, a person who's truly happy in life. This, you got diet for nutritionists and all these things and apps and everything. Where's the app and nutritionist and dietitian or whatever to be happy, to be good in life? Where is that? You want the most powerful currency in the world? You want literally nuclear energy to accomplish that for other people and for yourself? We Jews have been saying since the beginning of the Jewish people that the way to do is how you speak. And when we get that wrong, you destroy people, you destroy worlds, you destroy everything. Because we're destroying the essence of the godliness of all of it. When you learn how to speak the right way, it changes everyone around you, it changes you. I have money-back guarantee. I promise you. This is one of the age-old, primal Jewish traditions that we have. I'm giving you the greatest wisdom that the Jewish people can offer. Change the way you speak will change your life. It'll change your life and everyone around you. And you'll be doing exactly what God did. He breathed into the nostrils the soul of life, and it became a living being. That's what it means to be alive. So we're going to use that soul, we're going to use that breath, it's going to come back out into the words in which we say. And we cherish them, and we value them, and we deliver them with love and compassion and goodness and accuracy and truth in the right way. Then we're going to start to begin to be the people that we know that we can be. You're going to feel it, and it'll make a world of difference. Okay? That's what I wanted to share with you tonight. I'll take some questions.
So, you were saying that, like, speaking, like, the worst thing you can do is speak badly of someone in truth. But what if someone asks you, like, a very honest question about someone, and you are, like...
The laws of what to say and what not to say are incredible. They're really empowering. They're detailed. Okay, so they're extenuating, but it's not too hard to learn. You can learn this. Right, but it's very empowering. It's not restrictive. There are times when you can say things because you can't allow another person to lose out, whether it's money or a relationship, something like that, if you know something to be true. It's incumbent upon the other person not to believe the answer sometimes, but they're allowed to do their own research, right? There are laws that govern this, and it's you know, just like there are laws of how you traffic in radioactive material or whatever it is, like the Center for Disease Control, like, you know, big white suits. There are ways in which we do it, but we take it really seriously. I mean, I remember, you know, my wife's cousin, he and his wife basically just decided, they're religious people, they basically decided one day we're just not going to speak Lashon Hara ever. And they learned all the laws and they just made it their thing. And you go to their house and they're having, like, you know, conversations and you can tell, and they just don't go there. It just doesn't happen. And it might be awkward for someone who's trying to gossip or trying to pull something, but it's more important than making someone, you know, feel comfortable. I remember distinctly the first time I went to an Orthodox home for Shabbat, a Shabbat meal, And there was a guy who was at the table who was very awkward. You know that person that can make everyone really uncomfortable? And the hosts were really cool. They were like big writers in Hollywood. Okay? And the person from the synagogue who was sad character of a person, was also invited back to their house for lunch. So I went there. Now, if it was my group of friends and a person like that was sitting at the table, the second they left, it would have been like the Laugh Factory. We would have broke the tension by cracking jokes like, whoa, awkward man, like that guy was like so weird. Whatever it was, I was in LA in the comedy business, so like that's what you do, right? And what shocked me so much was when this person got up in the middle of the meal and left, no one said a thing. Because they just had control over what they said. It's not that no one thought it, but like, don't say it. There's a power to what you say. So these laws can be learned, they're not too daunting, right? And you'll be sitting around conversations. If you're sensitive, you can't walk the streets anyway because you're hearing everything. But all the conversations with your friends, everything on the phone and texting, people talking about each other, the way they talk, it doesn't matter if it's true. That's where the problem begins. I'm telling you, it's a life-changing endeavor. You can start tomorrow. Any questions? Great. You got it down? Cool. Okay, you're gonna start it. I get it. Where's that book? No,
In front of me.
okay, right in front of me. Right in front of me. Yes. Okay. Anyone who wants to raise their hand and volunteer to spend the next week being careful every single day about what they say. First one to volunteer, I'm going to give this book. You got it. Hand it. Okay? What I feel is that you got to send me email.